My name is Robert Littrell. This is the Iron Bridge Woodshop, which is actually part of our nonprofit, which is called Six Treasures Ministries. Uh, and Six Treasures is something that my wife Leslie and I started back in 2008 um, through some volunteer work. We became exposed to several homeless men, and I actually became pretty good friends with three or four of them. And once that volunteer program ended, I decided I wanted to continue. Our goal was not really to provide clothing or food or whatever to their shelter to these guys. It was to really get to know them. And what I learned in working with this group of people is that the economic poverty is not the thing that holds them back the most. It's actually kind of relationship poverty. If I get sick, I've got family, I got extended family, I've got friends, I got neighbors, I got coworkers. I have all these people that I can call and they'll be there in a heartbeat. These guys, if they get in trouble, the people that they know and hang with don't have resources.
What the woodshop provided for me, I've always had inclinations for wood skills, but it's provided a whole network of people, good Christian people that are my friends and in my network now, instead of druggies and alcohol people that I fell into.
My grandfather, my dad, they were carpenters, woodworkers, cabinet makers. My grandfather ran sawmills. And so I had been around wood all my life, and I've always just piddled with it. I've always made stuff. So it became real. I mean, if I was making a cabinet or a piece of furniture for the house, inevitably I'd have one of my homeless friends at the house, and they would help me, just an extra set of hands. And so I was always having these guys help me do woodworking at home. But one year my wife said, "Hey, Robert, Bailey, who's our daughter, she wants you to build her cutting board. She's been saying this for a long time, and I don't think you're hearing her." I said, "Okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to just go down right now and make her a cutting board." And I happened to have one of my friends, John, who was homeless, there with me that day. And I said, "John, come down and help me." So we went down and glued up just a cutting board and finished it. And once I got it finished, I showed it to my wife. She said, "That's beautiful." And it was coming up on Christmas time, and she said, "Why don't you and John make like 8 of those cutting boards, and we'll give them to our board of directors for Christmas gifts?" I said, "Okay, that's a cool idea." Then John would have helped me. Well, and then our board members were like, "Look, can you make some more of those? Because I'd like to give these to so and so and so." And that's how the woodworking got started. And so my daughter didn't get a cutting board for like 3 years. But anyway, we started selling these cutting boards, and it just developed over time. And then we began, I said, well, if we're going to sell these routinely, let's just set up a day a week where we spend the afternoon working, and then we'll have dinner together as a group.
Well, I was homeless one day, and I met Robert at McDonald's, and he asked me to come over and do some woodwork, at his house. That's when he had it over there. I said, "Yeah, I'll do it." He said, "Fine." He said, "You can." I lived in a tent, and that's been years ago. Seems like it. And I used to hunt cans to make money, and I got jumped. I got my eye put out, my right eye, and big gash, my head. And Robert asked me, "Would you like to have an apartment?" I said, "Well, I can't afford one, Robert." He said, "I'll take care of that." And he got me the apartment, and went for about 2 years, he took care of it. He has helped me 1,000 times. since I've been getting a check, I've been helping myself. My bills.
We've always used rough sawn lumber, because I think it's fun for the guys to see the stuff come right out of the sawmill, or right, and watch it go through the process of being milled and flattened and edged and everything, and then seeing the final product. It's just really cool. So the wood became one of our largest expenses, and when COVID hit, the prices just went up and up and up and up. And so, I'm not very much of a businessman, but I figured out if we could buy green lumber right from the sawmill, right off the mill, we could get it at a fraction of the price that we were paying for the stuff that had been dried but was still rough sawn. So I started looking around at ways to dry the wood, and that's when I got on the forestry form really, and started finding all this stuff. And then I ended up building a small kiln in my basement and dried some lumber that way. And I was like, well, we can do this. And so at our end of the year kind of campaign to raise money, a couple of donors wanted to know if there was something special that they could buy, that would help us out. And so we bought the now kiln, and we've dried 3 loads now. It's been perfect, and it's added something else to kind of the mix of the guys, both the volunteers and our homeless friends, to kind of learn about and see about. They're kind of fascinated by it. So it's cut our costs way down. When people ask me what does the wood shop do, for the people that participate, and this is for both the volunteers and the homeless man, I always say it. The first thing it helps us to do is connect with one another. So it provides a place where we can create and foster those relationships that are so important for all of us.
I've learned a lot about, doing woodwork. When I first started, I didn't know nothing. Then they showed me. Now I just know my own.
Now you're a professional.